I'm currently in my third 5-year vision for May 24th, 2028. And there is a line in the professional growth facet that says, and I'm just going to read it out as I wrote it. It says, I seek out ways to grow as a coach, consultant, facilitator, and speaker. And I can hear the nom, nom, nom sounds in my mind as I read voraciously and chomp into learning that I utilize for both myself and my visionaries. And I included that in the professional growth facet of my vision because I knew leading up to that, every single time that I did dive into a book that either a visionary was reading and recommended, or there was part of what they were working towards in their own vision that I wanted to dive into more deeply myself, or part of my own vision that I wanted to explore more deeply. And anytime that I did that, I just felt like I could feel all the juices flowing and the ideas started popping and all the dots were connecting. And I really, really loved being able to have that kind of spark that I was able to, again, utilize internally, but also absolutely with my clients for what was most relevant for them. And so I haven't read a good business book in a while, and that's completely okay because that's kind of the beauty of visioning. It's not about living every single sentence of your vision every day of every month of every year. It's really about seeing your vision as a whole and really recognizing which parts of it you want to bring to life at any given time and which parts you want to allow to move into the background. And I always think of it sort of like a wonderful photo that has this great composition. And oftentimes that composition is really interesting because the depth of field, because there's something in front that's really sharply in focus and the rest is intentionally more blurry. It's more in the background. And the same goes for your vision. As visionaries, we always want to be really proactive and intentional about what is coming our way so we don't feel like we're just reacting to every day as it comes. And as we look forward and have a clear sense of what we have going on in our world, personally, professionally, in all aspects of our life for that specific month or that specific season, then we're able to take a step back and say, okay, based on that, what parts of my vision do I really want to bring into sharper focus? What parts do I want to really keep front and center right now? What parts do I want to intentionally prioritize? And so then what other parts do I want to intentionally deprioritize? And more than just want to, need to intentionally deprioritize in order to be able to really keep those certain things front and center. And so that's one of the things I love is that it's not the sense of when you aren't living part of your vision actively or you're not keeping it in front and center. It's not like you feel guilty because it's not as if you forgot about it or it's no longer important to you. Again, it's a really intentional choice to allow that to recede into the background. The other part of that is while it's in the background, because like I said, you don't just forget about it, it gets to be there and just be ready for you when you're ready for it. And so I always read super fun, cheesy thriller novels, so I'm always reading, but I hadn't been reading anything on this front for a while, and it'd been in the back of my mind, but I just knew when the time was right, I would know, and I would be able to bring that forward again. And that time came because I have a client who is reading a book right now to focus on part of his vision, and I was like, I totally want to read this book too. I wanted to read it because I wanted to be on the same page as him as he takes away different pieces of this book, or if he has different insights or perspectives, I want to have that context so that instead of spending most of our session with him explaining what that chapter was all about, I can be like, yes, absolutely, let's dive in. Paragraph 2, what sticks out to you about this? So I started reading it, and it's a CEO book, and I have to admit, I was sort of expecting that it might be kind of an eye roll and like tons of platitudes and buzzwords and just feel very businessy, and I was really pleasantly surprised. I dove right into it, and there's already so many things that I am highlighting and really, really looking forward to diving in with him on our next session. But the other super cool thing was that I got to live it concurrently with other parts of my vision as well, so it felt like it all just coming together and has me feeling like this. And that's because I have this amazing advisor and mentor who I was talking with, and I said, I'm so grateful that we live in Madrid. I love our apartment where I work from, but sometimes I want to be out in the city. I want to be out experiencing this community more. And he's like, okay, cool. Well, how about you just do that? And I was like, oh, okay, good call. So this morning, instead of just sitting here and saying, I should really do that, I was like, I'm going to do it. Today's the day. So took the dogs to the dog park. On the way back from the dog park, there's this great cafe that I've walked by a ton of times. And every time I'm like, I really want to go to that cafe. But the cool thing is that in Spain and in Madrid, there is a really different culture in coffee shops with laptops. For sure, you'll see people who are working from a coffee shop, but it's not nearly as ubiquitous as it is in the US. They'll have signs that say no laptops, or there's that you can use your laptop during these specific hours. And I love that because it encourages people to, like, you're here to have coffee, you're here to have time by yourself, you're here to have time with other people, you're here just to look out the window. So just enjoy that. And I wanted to really embrace that. And I also found that in the US, whenever I did go to a coffee shop to work, I wouldn't really get any work done because then I would be hungry and then I would be thirsty and I would end up just like eating a bunch of snacks, and which I love snacks, but I didn't really end up getting any work done. And because then I felt guilty that I wasn't working, I also wasn't like really soaking up the cafe experience. So when I came here, I knew I don't just want to get out of the house by bringing my laptop to a coffee shop. I want to get out of the house in other ways. And one of the ways that, again, felt totally aligned was bringing a book, going to a coffee shop, sitting down and reading. So I'm sitting there with the dogs, so they're getting more stimulation and more time outside, which is absolutely part of my vision. I'm getting to enjoy this incredible city, which is absolutely part of my vision. And I'm getting to jump into this learning and delve into this reading. And it was just a really cool moment where it all kind of came together and brought this really big smile to my face. And it just feels really good to be living this part of my vision again.